Most of this stuff is happening all behind the scenes. The customer's not even aware of it. So now, what would we say if we got pushback? What would be our new value proposition? She goes, actually, I think I'm just going to stay where I'm at. What words would we say?
Acknowledge it.
So what would we say, not the framework? That's correct, but what's the word you would use to acknowledge?
I understand that
You don't even need to go that far. That's fair. My only job is, though, to get you that grocery card. So with that being said, redirect. That's how simple this is. When we go, I know, but, how many, you have a girlfriend, any of you? Girlfriend, boyfriend? Okay, so those of you females that have a boyfriend or boyfriends that have a girlfriend or vice versa, if you're a female and your boyfriend said, you look really good, but, you raise your hand, right? Okay, you would never say that to a significant other. But does what to the previous statement? It negates it. So if a customer says something and then we go, but, all we said is what you said is stupid, it doesn't matter. What I have to say is more important. So I just want to acknowledge them. I don't want to acknowledge them and then dismiss them. If you're in a relationship, this stuff works in interpersonal relationships as well, in communication. Just think of how many arguments, if you can remember them, was there a statement made and then you or maybe the other party goes, blah, 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 but. How well does that work in communication? Not very well, right? Because they just said, I agree with you and yeah, but I don't agree with you, you're full of shit. And that's all we're saying to the customer. We're in the communication business, ladies and gentlemen. That's all this is. The better we get at communication, the better we get at identifying problems. The better we get at actually identifying problems, the easier it is to identify if we can solve them. We can't solve problems if we don't know what they are, and we can't solve every problem. We can't solve every problem, but I at least want to know what the problem is so I can identify if I can potentially solve it. Follow? Okay.
Wonderful. We can certainly go over that. That is my job, to make sure you get all the benefits you're qualified for, as a grocery benefit included. Now, to be clear, this is provided through Medicare Parts A and B. Do you have both?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the one change we're going to make. Okay, Medicare is going to do two things for us. Medicare is going to be our credibility, and Medicare is going to be our scapegoat. Okay? They're going to serve two purposes. Medicare is going to be our credibility, and Medicare is going to be our scapegoat. Right? Anytime they're mad, we're going to blame it on who? Medicare. Oh, I know, Medicare makes me. Oh, I know, Medicare this. Right? Anytime I need a pillar of credibility, the secure Medicare system, Medicare requires, I'm going to use them as well. Does that make sense? So I want to set this frame and this foundation very early on in the phone call. So how do I do that? I go, great. That grocery card's paid for by Medicare. And I have to follow all the Medicare guidelines. Okay, I have to follow all of what? Guidelines. Which means I'm not going to ask anything or require anything that's outside of the guidelines and that is required. That's what that says subconsciously. So, Medicare pays for insert that grocery card, and I'm required to follow all of their guidelines. So they require asking a couple questions. Is that okay? The very beginning, we want to put them in the driver's seat. There's a big difference between an interrogation and a conversation. And we want it to sound like a conversation. It's much easier for it to sound conversational when we get permission to ask them questions. So great job in the opening. We're just going to change slightly to, great, so my only job is to help you with that grocery card. That grocery card's paid for by Medicare. So Medicare requires I follow all their guidelines, so I have to ask you a couple questions. Is that okay? And I lower my tonality. Is that okay? Follow? Any questions on that? If the customer says no, later, okay? But they won't.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now, to make sure I'm looking in the right area, can I get your first and last? Okay.
I have Medicare and supplemental insurance.
Okay.